You share about 60% of your DNA with a banana. If you trace the genetic code far enough back in time, the great-great 100 millionth grandparent of you and that fruit is exactly the same. For centuries, scientists believed that this shared biology was powered by a life force, a mystical, unexplainable energy that separated breathing organisms from dead rocks and soil. This photograph captures the rigorous chemistry that broke the myth. Mixing raw elements proved life is a complex chemical process, not a magical spark. This animated diagram shows the classic monkey-to-man lineup we've all seen in textbooks, but we need to throw this image away entirely. Evolution is not a peaceful, predetermined upgrade toward humanity. Your existence is the result of biological desperation. You are here because life spent 4 billion years surviving a universe that actively tried to wipe it out. 4 billion years ago, Earth was a toxic, violently hot sphere. Massive, fiery meteors rained down relentlessly, plunging into boiling oceans. But these rocks carried essential amino acids, the raw building blocks required to build a cell. Deep underwater, the intense heat from hydrothermal vents caused fatty acids to naturally form soap-like bubbles. By pure chance, loose genetic material called RNA got trapped inside one of these bubbles. This accident created LUCA, the last universal common ancestor. It was a single-celled microbe from which all life on Earth descends. 2 billion years later, early bacteria figured out how to absorb sunlight and release oxygen. For us, oxygen is life. But for early microbes, this sudden explosion of gas was a lethal poison that triggered a massive global extinction. This diagram shows how life survived. A large archaea enveloped a smaller bacteria that processed poisonous oxygen. The host kept it alive. This swallowed bacteria became a permanent resident, evolving into mitochondria, the microscopic powerhouse fueling nearly every cell in your body right now. If that toxic oxygen hadn't forced two desperate cells to merge, the massive biological energy required to build complex, multicellular animals would never have existed. 66 million years ago, giant reptiles ruled the planet with absolute dominance. Then, an asteroid the size of Mount Everest slammed into the Earth's surface. The sheer force and heat of the impact incinerated 75% of all plant and animal life. The only ancestors of ours to survive the blast were tiny, rat-like mammalian creatures hiding deep in underground burrows. Above ground, the lush forests were reduced to charcoal. To avoid starvation, these small mammals resorted to eating the toxic ash itself, along with subterranean insects like cockroaches that had also survived the destruction. The dust from the asteroid impact choked the atmosphere, blocking out the sun completely. For decades, the planet plunged into a freezing, dark nuclear winter. Trapped in this brutal cold, those underground scavengers had to biologically adapt or freeze to death. Over generations, they developed insulating fur to trap heat and the internal mechanics to pump warm blood, allowing them to regulate their own body temperature. The body hair on your arms and the warm blood in your veins were not natural progressions of a master plan. You have these physical traits because your ancestors desperately needed them to survive a freezing apocalypse. Skip forward to about 7 million years ago in Africa. Our hominid ancestors were thriving. They lived comfortably as tree-dwelling apes in lush, humid forest canopies. This map shows the geological catastrophe that ended that peace. Tectonic plates shifted and crashed together, raising a massive mountain range along the eastern coast. These towering peaks acted like a wall, deflecting the wind and blocking rain clouds from reaching the continent's interior. This photograph shows the environmental fallout. Denied usual rainfall, the dense jungle rapidly dried out and died off, transforming the landscape into vast, exposed savannas. Looking at the pelvis and leg bones of this ancient skeleton, known as Lucy, you can see how anatomy reacted. Evicted from the dying trees, these apes had to scavenge for food on the ground. To spot predators over the tall savanna grasses, they had to stand and walk on 2 legs, a physical adaptation known as bipedalism. Walking upright meant their hands were suddenly free. They used those hands to craft stone tools, which eventually led to the control of fire and the ability to cook meat. Raw food takes an immense amount of physical effort to chew and process. Cooked meat is soft and breaks down easily. Because digestion required far less energy to process this food, the body redirected that massive surplus of calories straight up to expand the brain. If those tectonic plates had remained still, the African rain clouds would have kept falling and the forests would have survived. We would likely still be swinging through the branches with the intelligence of apes. The skull in this image belongs to one of our extinct cousins, an early toolmaker like Homo habilis. Our lineage is not a straight line of constant improvement, but a messy, branching family tree filled with dozens of human-like species that didn't make it. Charles Darwin, seen in this portrait, never claimed that humans evolved from modern monkeys. He argued that both modern humans and modern apes are simply the surviving descendants of a shared ancestor that died out millions of years ago. The fossil record is a sprawling graveyard. It is a massive web of dead ends, where 99% of all species that have ever existed failed to adapt and went extinct. The mitochondria powering your cells, the hair on your arms, your upright posture, and your highly capable brain are biological scars. They are physical reactions to severe environmental traumas. We are not the predetermined pinnacle of a peaceful biological plan. Humanity is simply the ultimate survivor, a highly resilient accident, forged by a